All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And it's not really sunny out, but it is feeling warm. So I thought I'd bring us all outside today and let us enjoy some of this beautiful weather. And hopefully everyone else is having some beautiful weather where you are as well. But today we're going to be talking about verse 62 of the Tao Te Ching, as because we're studying the book Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, and we are on chapter 62, which also discusses verse 62 of the Tao Te Ching. But before we get going, I want to get everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then we can get this chat going. Jump out, guys.
Hi, it's Catherine in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm going to be quick because I've got a train coming any second now. Good to be here.
How cool. Do you ever feel like being a hobo? Hopping on the train. This is Karen in Arizona. Excuse me, in Arizona.
There we go. I had to unmute myself. Hi, this is Christopher in Chicago. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. So I'm guessing the weather has got to be warm in Arizona. I'm always jealous of that warmness out there, but my husband doesn't want to move out there. He likes it here, so compromise, right? How about you, Catherine? What's the weather doing up there? Or is your train still go by? So okay, right. You're so funny, Karen. I never know what you're gonna say. That hobo thing. I never thought about doing that when I was at the campground and we had the train going by. I mean, I guess in a sort of a way, I was like, I wish I could just jump on and ride it down the track a ways, but that'd be pretty
My
dangerous.
picture is the stick over your shoulder with the
Yeah.
with the knapsack.
With a handkerchief, with like all your clothes in one handkerchief at the end of the stick.
Right.
Yeah. I totally thought of that as a little kid. I was like, oh man, that seems like a good adventure. Hop on a train.
Your folks would be thinking it'd be a good adventure trying to find you afterwards. It makes me think of that guy in India, and I haven't seen that movie, but he fell asleep on the train or something, and like it was 25 years later before he was able to find his mom.
Isn't that the one the movie is?
Yeah, what's the name of that movie?
Lion?
Yeah, Lion. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm gonna have to see it. I think it's just fascinating what I've learned about it.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like an interesting movie. You're saying that was he a kid and fell asleep on the train and got lost from his parents? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Nicole Kidman's in it too. It won like an Academy Award, I believe. And evidently, like they found him 25 years later. He was like in Australia or something.
So based on a true story kind of thing?
I believe so.
Huh. Trippy.
Yeah, definitely based on a true story. He and his brother were. I mean, those places over there, everything is such a huge mill, and his brother actually died that night.
Oh
and his brother was a kid too. I mean, he was an older kid than he was, but my gosh, can you imagine being a small kid and you're several towns down the track and you have no idea? I mean, really no concept. I just, some people have just incredible lives, and like this young man coming on here, Jason.
Hi, Jason. Jason's silent this morning.
I think he's waiting for his computer to catch up to him.
It
seems like when he gets on, he's got to wait for it.
All right.
Looks like you got a new haircut, though, Jason. Looking good. You look younger. I mean, not that you looked old before, but you look really young. don't know if you can even hear us. You're muted. Yeah. You're muted still. There you go.
I'll figure this out eventually, right? Morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning, Jason.
Hey. Yeah. Verse 62, huh?
Yep. Verse 62, that's right. Okay, so let's get this thing going. We've been jibber jabbering now for 10 minutes. So who wants to read the verse?
Get it out.
Go back to finding it.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
The Tao is the treasure house of the true nature, the secret source of everything. It is the treasure of the good man and the refuge of the bad. If a person seems wicked, do not cast him away. Awaken him with your words. Elevate him with your deeds. Repay his injury with your kindness. Do not cast him away. Cast away his wickedness. Thus, when a new leader is chosen, do not offer to help him with your wealth or your expertise. Help him to meditate on the principle. Offer instead to teach him about the Tao. Why did the ancients make so much of the principle? Is it not because it is the source of all good and the remedy for all evil? It is the most noble thing in the world. Verse 62.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
So, what did everybody think about this verse when you first read it?
So I'm not gonna help Trump. I'm just gonna offer him the Tao and spiritual direction. I offer him to meditate.
Yeah, I'd like to know, it talks about principles. So, like to know more about the underlying principles of the decisions of the leaders that, are making these big decisions for us. I was talking the other day about, or actually last night with someone about the healthcare issue, and they hate the healthcare that we have, and there's a lot of problems with it. I understand that. I was talking about the philosophy behind it, though. I think everybody pretty much can agree that we all want affordable stuff, and we all want to have coverage. So there's I think principles or philosophy behind things that we can all agree on when you get down to its basic level.
I was curious as to, a lot of the great leaders in like the MLM industry, they always talk about reading books, and many of them talk about meditating and focusing on learning and applying the principles they learn and stuff like that. It makes me wonder, what has Trump read? What has any of these presidents, what did Obama read before? I don't know. I don't think they read the same books that we've read. Maybe some of them, but I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting.
Oh boy.
Well, President Trump actually did write that book, The Art of the Deal, and I think people like, I don't know, but exactly, but the name of the book is reminiscence of The Art of War. So I haven't read the book, but I would imagine that his angle on negotiations is like the angles on war, like based off of that book, The Art of War, which is an ancient book, kind of like this, the Tao. So, and those were principles that maybe he's, used in his negotiations. So, but yeah, knowing people's principles, I guess that it gives you that good idea of where people are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's using the principles in how to win friends and influence people. I don't think he's using that much.
I don't know. I mean, you can't get to where you are on the top like that without having some how to win friends and influence knowledge, you know. I mean,
You can't?
I don't think you can get yourself into a position of
I
power.
think you might have read The Art of War, like you said, Jason.
Well, you know, I don't know. I've thought it seems like that's been a book that's been recommended in the business industry, is The Art of War, and it makes me wonder, does it teach different? I mean, it says war, but are we talking about? You know, I don't know. I'd be interested to read that and see what it actually is about, and if it's just about war, or if it's actually got underlying messages in there that are more about how to. I don't know. Who knows? I have no idea.
As far as I know, the art of war is about strategies on how to win war, how to battles of the ancient, ancient times that where there were principles about how to win battles or how to strategically gain influence by deception and by cunning strategies that you use in battle. So, I mean, it's the art of war is very, if it's very enlightening, because if if you understand if people are coming from that angle, then you kind of have to keep your guard up. But yeah, I do think someone like someone that's that's built their empire or their fortune out of real estate, you don't really have a whole lot of people to be held accountable to. You just, there's a lot of tricks and techniques to use the system to your advantage, and use banking to your advantage, use all kinds of different types of contracts to your advantage. So, and it's good business. It's I mean, it gets you ahead. But then when it comes down to it, you can also end up, stepping on a lot of people because you're not really interested in other people's interests. You're looking to get out of a situation that's not going to benefit you, and you don't really care whether or not it's, well, I mean, you could. It's kind of a personal choice of whether or not you care who you impact. But if you don't, and you're following the legal rules, then there's no ramifications for what you do. You can leave people holding the bag, so to speak.
I think it's interesting you bring up the legal side of it, because it seems to me that there's always some kind of law that's going to squash somebody down and bring somebody else up. And I don't know. Okay, so let's get back to the verse, though.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back to the end of the verse where it talks about, this being the remedy for all evil. I mean, we talk about all these evils in the world and things we're frustrated about. Why does this verse seem to think, or why is Lao Tzu telling us that the Tao is the remedy for all evil? What do you think?
Well, the Tao does cover a lot of stuff. There's no one verse that covers everything, but I think if you are able to read them all and then reflect on them all and pull them all together, then I think it can be very powerful. It would take someone to actually put in that time. Hey, Karen, how are you today?
Well, I'm good, Jason. What came to my mind was looking at it as a philosophy. I mean, you mentioned the art of war, and just those 4 words I was kind of spinning around in a philosophy that I have, because as I was growing up, there was a book of scripture that I was reading that was like all war. And I mean, it was so damn boring to me. It was like, and they went and they battled and they, whatever. And it was like, oh my gosh, is this all there is? Is this all there is? Is this really over like centuries? Is this all there is? And so when you mentioned, how is it that Lao Tzu sees this being kind of an answer for everything? It's a different philosophy. It's certainly not the philosophy of conflict and battle and all of the negative parts of our nature, and trying to hone skills out of the negative parts of our nature. This this philosophy is one of peace and humbling and self-effacing and things that just really have no part with war. So that's what came to mind for me.
I think we could write the book, The Art of Peace, in like one word: surrender. Because when it all comes down to it, just like it's said in the book, if men are equal or evil, don't cast them away, cast away their wickedness, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing here. But if you give up your idea that what they're doing is evil to begin with, or that they are evil because they do those things, I guess is the way maybe I should word it. It's a surrender. It's a surrender of judging. It's a surrender of recognizing that each one has their path, and you really can't control another being. You can try, but it just causes resistance and more upheaval. So, but it's so much easier said than done. I've had a couple of things come across my desk this week that got me pretty riled up. So it's, things going on in the world, that decisions that certain governments are making, and it's just insane. But it's hard to maintain your Zen position, when they're doing some crazy shit over there somewhere. But I mean, if everybody could surrender and go by the Tao, then war would disappear, and what a beautiful thing that would be. So much easier said than done, though. Remember, he was surrounded by war during the time that he wrote this, and so I'm not saying it was any easier then, but I would say that his observation that this would be the answer to it would be a correct one for sure.
But I'd say I agree with Karen that this seems to be a peaceful way. We know of these people who lived way back there in these Taoist traditions that were like, 20, 23 centuries back. We know that they were living as monks, and so they were living very spiritually, and that portion of the people were like wandering monks. And we even see these places in China with these high and beautiful mountains, and this is like where these people lived. Maybe he was living on a farm sometime. We don't know exactly where he lived. Probably lived in different places if he lived to this supposed ripe old age of 81 or whatever. And but we know that it appears that he was like these other a Taoist, which there's a tradition of, and they have very sort of monk-like and very peaceful ways of living with the land. So it seemed like he was, definitely a peacekeeper as such. He may have fought in an army. We don't know, but there's no historical recording of it as far as I know.
Yeah, when I first read it, I was kind of thinking the same thing as what you were thinking, Catherine. It's not so much the literal words; it's the figurative way that it's the symbolic way that he's talking. It's not like you just go and can kick away the wickedness. It's letting go of what you think wickedness is, and I think that that's a big part of it there. And it kind of, when it's talking about the leader and, not offering help with your wealth or your expertise, but yet help and meditate on the principle or in teaching about the Tao, I don't think that literally means take them by the hand and teach them the Tao. I think or the Tao, excuse me. I think it means more of, be the example, live by the principle yourself. And by doing that is that you affect the people that are around you, regardless of what they think they're doing. And if you're following the way or the Tao, is that things just kind of seem to have more peace in your life. And that includes everything and everyone outside of you, even if you aren't directly interacting with that person. I mean, yeah, sure, these teachers or these ancient philosophers, maybe they were out in the mountains. I don't know. But what's funny is that here he writes all this down, or somebody encourages him to write it all down, and it's affecting us all the way up and through the centuries into now. And I mean, that's a huge thing right there. I mean, we think that what we're doing on this Saturday morning mastermind may not really be affecting anybody, but yet, it's no different than what Lao Tzu did, as he said these few things that he thought were, pretty important for people to know. And it affected millions and millions of people throughout the centuries. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like we think, oh, well, we have to make the change and see it right this minute, and otherwise it doesn't count, or it's not good enough, or any number of things like that. But I mean, I can see times are changing all the way around, and yeah, everybody has their own really strong opinions about, Trump or Obama or the environment or global warming or whatever it happens to be, and yet by taking these little steps that we're taking makes a difference in the long-term future. And I think that's what we have to kind of look at. But I notice even in my own life with my husband and my family and my friends, that just my attitudes and the ways that I have changed has caused them to change, even without their purposeful thought to do so. And I think that's I don't know. I think that's really interesting how just being slightly different yourself, you actually can change other people. And I don't know if that's just my perception of them being different, because I'm surrendering in some ways and allowing in other ways and letting go of expectations in other ways. And then all of a sudden the people in my life seem completely different, and I don't know, would the world look completely different if we just let go of all these expectations and ideas of what we think it should be and just focus on our own philosophy of living, and everything would just fall into place? Would it?
That would be a big change. But what you were describing, like, that was definitely like little changes that you were making, and they were responding to your changes. So yeah, it's like you have an effect on the things around you. Like, I was noticing, like, I had someone do, like, I don't know if I could say wicked, but someone say something really mean to me, yesterday, and it was like at first I like went into silence for like 20 minutes, and this like second paragraph here that was like, that was ended up how I changed it. First I was like, wow, that was like really a mean insult that was like not asked for. So I gave her the silent treatment for about 20 minutes, but then I was like, I like changed it, and I like just gave her a compliment out of the blue, and that kind of changed things. It was just seemed like a better way to do it. Didn't mean I was perfect. I didn't respond perfectly either, but so I don't know. It was relevant to me.
That's awesome, Chris. That's, and that can be difficult to do because we can feel attacked and hurt sometimes, and it can keep us get us out of our, or put us into our own head so much that we can't even appreciate other things and reflect on others. I like the the first verse of this, or the first section of this. I kind of opens my eyes when I read that again. Is the Tao is the treasure house, the true nature. So it's a treasure. It's something that can fulfill us. It can fulfill all of our needs if we allow it. If you're wanting and you follow the Tao, you can be fulfilled with it from what the Tao offers. I think this comes from a time when, like you said, there was a lot of, there was battles going on. Life was not easy, but it was also simple. It wasn't where we have all these, all this stuff that surrounds us and things that make us desire more and always feel like we don't have enough. There's enough within the Tao to fulfill everyone, and that's the treasure. So if you have someone, if someone was stealing back then and they learned the Tao, they could learn that they don't need to steal to receive that which they need. And it goes on to say that it's the secret source of everything. So it's not something that is enlightened to all. It's only there for those who seek it, who believe in it and seek it. So it's the secret source of us as our internal, as the very essence of us and all of our surroundings, of all of the 10,000 things that it said, right? I mean, it's undescribable. You can't even, we try to talk about it, but it's not even really describable, it says. So it's a little elusive. But then it goes on to say here that it is the treasure of the good man. So those who seek it and seek to find the goodness in it and believe in it is how I'm perceiving that. And it's also the refuge of the bad, so that those who are, showing some wicked tendencies or maybe just are not guided or out of not being guided correctly or whatever, those that are not in alignment are, can come into alignment by learning the principles. So I think that's awesome that it's really telling us, and symbolically, like you said, Samantha, that it's there for all of us and it can fulfill us all, every need that we actually have naturally. It can fulfill all of that for us with its understanding. That's just my perception, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that part of it is kind of like that, when you're trying to go it alone and you're trying to do everything by yourself and you're trying to force things to work and if you feel so desperate you have to steal, then you're not connected with everybody else who's around you. You're not working together as a group or working together with other people in such a way that you benefit one another. If and I think that's kind of what it is. It's like you're outside of the harmony, and so life is that much more difficult. And it seems that that's what it is. Like anytime you try and control, or you're just working so hard to make something happen, and you've cut yourself off from all other possibilities, because you want it to work only one specific way, as you make things more difficult for yourself. And so it's a struggle. And yet then when you allow yourself to be in harmony with, and you open yourself up to all possibilities of being taken care of by the Tao, if you will, then things become easier, and life is easier, and people are easier to be with. What was that part you were just talking about here? The refuge of the bad and the treasure of the good man. And I think that when he's talking about that, he's suggesting those of us who live in harmony, or at least are attempting to live in harmony with the Tao, is that we recognize the treasure, we see it. But yet even those who so-called are evil, but even evil is just people being afraid and fearful and trying to control and trying to force and can manipulate. All of those things, it's not that they're evil, it's just that they're coming at it from the wrong angle. But even then, when they find themselves at the lowest point, what do? They turn to some other power, because they finally realize, I can't control the situation. I can't, you have to surrender. And I think that's what he's talking about, is that refuge for the bad, per se. And those of us who allow in the first place, we feel it, and we see it, and we experience the treasure. And but how many times have we had situations in life where it's just been so unpleasant, and all you can do is just take refuge in the Tao and pray and hope and look for the solution inside that, because where else is it going to be? But you got to be open to it, right? Because if you're expecting only one answer, and that's the only acceptable answer, then you're still you're still in resistance. So okay,
Right. So then this is interesting, because Lao Tzu, he doesn't even really incorporate Taoism as a thing here. So like, it's not really created as a religion. He's writing these verses, and they're sort of free format. They're very natural. I don't know, prose or whatever, natural poetry. And then he's describing the nature of things. And then also, like, he talks about at the beginning or something like, Tao is the mother of two, two is the mother of three is the mother of 10,000 things, or something like that, two or three gives birth to 10,000 things. Like, nature is kind of mysterious, and the idea of a mother source, that's also kind of a mysterious thing. It's hard for people to contemplate. People don't see that, since people see the manifested side of things, they don't always relate to that unmanifest, or the mother side, or the side of nature, and then he goes into relate to nature right away. But he says true nature, so that's sort of kind of like a reference to the state of being, nature, who we are. But then there's also that word nature, which is also a thing. Nature is a thing, and then some people are like ignorant that of not first, it's hard to see your own nature as such, because that's the state of things, or your being, or your way. And then some people are ignorant that we have any relationship to nature whatsoever. Nature doesn't play a role in human life, and we're not part of nature. Well, that seems far off the path to me. So he's trying to bring all this together. It's kind of mysterious and hard to describe.
I think it's really cool that you made the effort you did, and it was, I think, a really good effort, a really profound effort. You mentioned this wasn't set up as a religion, and what immediately came to my mind is I kind of saw it as a backdrop. It's hard to picture him. I don't know if there's ever been movies made and, people trying to portray the role that he took. But just my little, my few ideas of that part of the world, and that long ago, and taking the time to contemplate what is behind everything. To look out at beauty you can imagine in those high mountains. You mentioned that, and that's always been my favorite part of the earth is mountains. And so if you sit up there in the top and you look out and try and get a view of what life is about and what how it encompasses all the different types of people, all the different kinds of situations. If you're looking at war, in that day it had to be, well, I guess any day it's pretty pretty gross and pretty in your face. And just looking out at the sky and the stars and nature, seeing it all as a backdrop to what goes on in this planet. Now, I'm going to sully all of that with what I have to say next, just because this has been on my mind for a number of days. And Chris, I don't know if you were listening at this time, but if you were, I'll be able to tell from your reaction. But when Samantha was talking about what a difference it makes, that he took the time, and of course he was kind of forced to write this down, and how it's influencing us, so many centuries later, and what a difference we make, and you don't really realize it. There was a comment made on the Think and Grow Rich call that I listened to in the mornings a few days ago, and I just wanted so badly to say something, and I was involved with our little poopies, our little pooping puppies. And so I didn't get a chance to, but this man came out and he said, he didn't say it in this way, but this is how I took it. We're like the cockroach. He said, I grew up in the Bronx, and it was just a part of life that there were cockroaches. And if you walk into someone's home and you see a cockroach, you have no idea, how many thousands there are backing that cockroach up in the walls. And I thought, what he's saying is that when we come out and speak and we share our thoughts, our view, our ideas, we really have no idea. We have no idea where it goes from there, who might be influenced and what they might think, feel, do, from that. So now that I've sullied all this stuff, Chris was painting so beautifully for us, I'm going to get off. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, Karen, my goodness. Like the cockroaches, right? That's a good point, though. I like that analogy, though, of I mean, when you impact one person, you don't have any idea. I mean, I think it is interesting how, online you can be doing something, writing a blog post, doing videos like we are, and somebody makes a comment, but what we forget is that if there's one person who takes the time and the effort to make that one comment, there's got to be, 10 or 100 more people behind that just haven't said anything. And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. And just like all the people that listen to that Think and Grow Rich call every day, I mean, it could be, I'm sure that Paul probably has an idea, since he's got the little conference thing he can watch on there, how many people are calling in. But, what is it, 15 or 20 people that comment and talk regularly, and the rest are just back there listening. And then like me, when I was listening, I wasn't even listening to the live call. I was listening to the recording because it was at a better time of day for me. So, I mean, who knows how many people are listening in on what we talk about every week. And, I mean, there that and just with like Lao Tzu and everything that he did. I mean, he didn't develop this whole Taoism. I don't even think it's considered a religion. I think it's just considered a philosophy. But I don't know. Maybe some people take it to the extreme. But either way, I mean, yeah, I agree. You don't know who you're going to impact in a day. When I decided to take this job, that working in this retail job, of course I had to go in there and interview, and of course they ask you, all these random questions and about customer service and whatnot. And that's one of the things that is my philosophy, is knowing that, any time that I interact with a person, is that person could either take a bad experience away from it, or they can take a good experience. And whatever experience they take from that is what they're going to go out into the world with. And if they take a bad experience out and then they go drive in their car and they're all cranky and upset, then they could have an accident that could kill somebody, that could, who knows what. I mean, there's all these possibilities. Or I could give them a good experience, and when they walk out, they smile at somebody who hasn't seen a smile in days, and then that person turns around and smiles at somebody else or does some other thing, and then it just grows and grows from there. So, I mean, it seems like so minuscule, some of the things that we do on a daily basis that, follow the Tao philosophy, but yet they can have huge impact, and we just don't see it. Like you were saying, Karen, like the cockroaches in the wall that we don't even see. But that was funny, and I don't feel like you sullied our conversation. I think that you just created kind of a picture of all of that we just don't even see. And welcome, Marjorie. Glad to have you on.
Welcome.
We're kind of getting close to the top of the hour here, but the recording will be available if you want to go back and watch the beginning.
Okay, thank you. I've seen the invitation maybe once or twice before, and I decided to jump on this morning. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome.
Marjorie's very sweet. We work with each other daily, and she'd be a really great asset to this group. Glad you made it.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I think I felt urged that I needed this today because so much is going on, and here I am talking about good versus bad, and I saw the word evil, and I decided, I think this is meant to be, because I truly believe that all the good work that we do on ourselves, and the love and the positivity is all meant to contrast and bring down the amount of evil and transform and transmute the evil that we all live with. And that's my philosophy, and it's become stronger recently. So that's why I was called to join today. Thank you. I will look for the replay.
That's nice. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, before you came on, we all kind of give a little idea of how we see the verse. And so we were just discussing things that popped out to us as far as the verse, because Lao Tzu is like pretty hard to understand. We try to Thanks for being here.
You know, it makes me think of, I know you all have seen these programs that are being started all around the world where they take in animals into the prisons and they soften them with love, with unconditional love that the animals give them. And when I think about, like, even the books that we've covered, Marjorie, we've been doing this a few years now, I guess. I can't remember exactly, but we go through different books. And this Thoughts Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer, that's what we're covering right now, but we've covered a lot of books before this. But if you think about, most of them were written like back in the 30s or something. You know, it's not, some of the most influential books that I've read are not like, weren't written last week. This wisdom is so, it pertains. It doesn't matter what century it is or anything else. The same, having to bring people back into surrender, you know, out of dissonance. I don't know how I want to word that, but every time, like in my daily life, if I find myself getting agitated or upset over something, every time, if I will just go back to, you know, get to that surrender, you know, what am I judging somebody about, or what am I judging myself about, or, you know, why is that riling me up? And if I go back to that surrender point and restructuring the way I'm thinking about it, as opposed to trying to change the person that I think is doing the wrong thing, you know, but just going back to changing the way I'm thinking about what they're doing. Because even, and I started talking about the prisons, even some of the most, what we would consider horrendous crimes that people have committed, when you break it down, I mean, when you take away everything that's happened to them in this lifetime as a human, if you take them back to that 2 or 3 year old child, you know, that is just full of love and joy and hasn't been beaten up by the world, you know, they're still us. We're still the same love being, and it is difficult for them as well. Like I think I've mentioned before, and I guess I bring this up because it's to me, it's one of those things that I struggle with understanding, and that's maybe why I've read a little bit about it. But like pedophiles, there are pedophiles that never act on what they fantasize about or whatever, you know, but they are at battle with themselves, like they hate themselves every minute of every day, and especially when those sorts of thoughts come up, because they would never act on them, but it doesn't mean that they don't still have them. And they're so conflicted, like the hell that they live in, just because of their own, you know, misinterpretation of love is how I'm going to word that. Oftentimes these people have been experienced some type of sexual abuse in their past, and they get stuck at a certain age, emotionally, and that's the only age of people that they can relate to, if that makes any sense. Like they get stuck, if they were molested at age 5 or whatever, then they get stuck at age 5, and then emotionally, and then when they're trying to relate and love with other people, they can't do it, you know, with an adult. They do it with the same age that they got stuck at, and it becomes this very twisted and misinterpretation of love. But it, in their heart of hearts, it is still their expression of love, if that makes any sense. So I love when they do you bring in the animals and the different things into the prisons and soften them instead of, because you can't, well, you can beat somebody into submission, but you can't just force people to not think what they think. You have to, because thoughts arise for all of us. I mean, we're not necessarily in control of the thoughts that come to us, just what we do with the thoughts. Oh, hush now. Sorry, I'm getting on a soapbox here.
I'm glad you brought that up about the dogs and with the prisoners, because it reminded me of something I watched where they were talking about teaching meditation in inner city schools and how that was changing the dynamic of violence in those communities and reducing the gang issues that they were having. And, and that kind of comes back to this part about, helping folks to meditate on the principle, even if you're not telling. I read a thing the other day or somewhere I saw it, and it said, meditating isn't about controlling your thoughts. It's about controlling how you react to them or not letting your thoughts control you. I thought that that's huge. So anyway, that's what I thought of when you mentioned the dogs in the prison.
So then this was like a can of worms, Catherine. So with Karen, and then when Catherine said it's like the cockroaches and a can of worms, I was like, I don't know. Somehow it's like a subtitle of today's program. How to teach cockroaches and a can of worms or something. I don't know. I was imagining also, Karen, earlier when you mentioned cockroaches, I imagined all these cartoon cockroaches like gathering around for a giant conference of listening to the Saturday morning Mastermind, like in cartoon form.
I'm just, this is Marjorie. I was just saying, I just took another little quick look at your description of what the topic is for today, a remedy for evil. So I kind of hinted, and Catherine heard this yesterday, I guess. I have a really varied background in interests, and so I have spent decades reading books and searching online when it wasn't readily available, the information I found, and going to workshops and everything. So this whole idea of evil, and then like in rediscovering some of the things that I've spent so many decades looking for and finding that it's really readily accessible now, because it really is the topic of the day. The truth is coming out, and so it's there. It's all set up for us easily to find online. And I rediscovered, the thing I was really interested in, and have spent for the last 2 weeks time, listening to interviews, watching some videos and things like that. And so evil really is out there, and the work that we do, as I had said before, the positive, loving energy work is healing, is transforming, is necessary that we do individually. So like the work that you've been doing all these years with your Saturday get together, and even as we're talking about it now, is so important, because none of this will be cleaned away, the evil, unless we do it, meaning us, the human beings, the souls here, and the power we have, which we know, but we don't tap into it enough, is so powerful that, like, I heard this on one of the things I was listening to recently, that just 7,000 people meditating together at the same moment, maybe in the same building, or maybe just all around the world at the same time, because it's coordinated, just like you're coordinating, getting together every Saturday, is so much, it's like the same as, it's a million times more powerful than just the 7,000 people, but it's our collective consciousness that's doing this. And we're over the years, the decades, I've seen all these invitations, and some people actually getting together into exotic places and doing dances and rituals, and all of that added up. And so it is kind of awesome that I woke up and I did my prayer meditation. I'm trying to help a friend of mine right now, and I got on a phone call with another person. Then I saw this, and I'm jumping on. I'm acting out of my gut. So the truth will be coming out. I don't want to go into it because maybe it's just too much at this late hour when you're about ready to close. But it's just awesome to think that we are obviously much more aware and awake to the fact that we have power. But as more and more people, and that's the whole point of the awakening, is that as more people who are just kind of caught up in their mundane world and don't even pay any attention to things that really do matter, that their power will be awakened and it will be added to ours. And the whole idea of the ascension, meaning we are being lifted. We already are being lifted, but we'll be lifted even more into a higher vibration, and our world will be at a higher vibration. That's what I'm looking forward to. So, and Dr. Wayne Dyer, I have so many of his books, and when you talk about understanding the Tao or other sayings, I find that I'm like a person who loves to go to a buffet, and read all these books. And I'm not an expert in any of them, can't quote any of them, can't even don't even feel confident to share about them, but I'm just like a mix of everything. So this is really exciting for me. I'm glad to be here, and thanks for listening to me. And Catherine, I think the idea of the animals and pets and such in the prisons, I think what it is I've heard Dr. Dennis say this. He says it's the yin, like a newborn has more yin because it just arrived from the heaven world. A newborn, it has all that softness, and then as we get older we become more yang, which is, I guess, the more masculine. And so I think that the animals are bringing the yin energy to these very, very harsh masculine energy environments like prisons and the people who are in there, the prisoners. And that's what's really happening, is they don't get that yin in their world, and that's what the animals are representing. And now you're making me think of getting a pet, which I don't really want because I had a cat for many years and he's gone, and he was lovely. So anyway, we need to find more yin in our lives and maybe that's what this group is representing and this conversation and topic. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Marjorie. And I agree. It's that yin, and and this verse talks about the Tao being the treasure house and the true nature. And Jason talked a lot about the nature of things. Or was that you, Jason, or Chris? Did you say the name? It was Chris, wasn't it? Sorry, I get confused. Anyway. The nature of things. And I think that getting back to nature and connecting with nature, and of course the animals are part of that nature, and meditating is part of that. And we have all of these different ways to connect with that yin energy, as you were speaking of, Marjorie. And that's what we're talking about here. But guys, we are at the top of the hour. My goodness, this hour went by fast. But I want to give everybody just an opportunity. If you have something you want to say here at the end, wrap up for today, then jump out real quick, and then we'll close for the day.
I really liked what Marjorie was saying about the energy. I was just thinking that evil can't sustain itself, but the positive energy of we recognize that's through understanding of the Tao, it replenishes itself. And so if you're in and of the Tao, you can continue to create those energies, and we can help the world and create that balance. I think that Marjorie was talking about. That was really wonderful. In this book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, by Dr. Wayne Dyer, excuse me. On this verse 62, he does talk a little bit about like what Chris was saying when you were speaking about how you reacted to that person being negative to you, Chris. And this also goes into the energy flow that Marjorie was talking about. He says, where you perceive negativity, alter your view to see pure love and kindness that's mistakenly been directed to seek a sacred place in the material world. That energy is powerful, and so it's moving away from its source. When someone's seeking that in the material world, it's moving away from its source instead of returning and replenishing in the spiritual cycle that is its original point. When you succeed in changing how you perceive so-called wickedness, invite others to see the difference as well. Thanks to your new point of view, you'll be quite comfortable discussing the difference between material world satisfactions and the riches of the Tao. And if requested, you'll even be able to offer a map or path to the sacred treasure house of the Tao. And I thought that was really interesting, that the flow of energy can flow from us and through us to create that balance in the world. And so it is up to us to use our tuning fork capabilities and our vibrations and to hold that positiveness in us and understand to separate ourselves from that which we think we are and what we really truly are, which is in essence what the Tao talks about, this sacred source. So anyway, thank you so much, Marjorie, and thanks for coming out today. I really appreciate being here. Have a great weekend, everybody.
I was just going to add that in my searching, I remember one thing that meant a lot to me was learning about the history of man and human beings and who we really are and how it all fit into the different universes and galaxies and such, and that we here on Earth are really an experiment, and in a sense, and that what we proved, which is the most beautiful thing, is that we will go toward love. Like, despite everything, I guess, in all those years of our history, etc., that overall we have proven and shown that we will go toward love and light, and that is so awesome. And like, for our Creator, like the most beautiful gift. And one thing that Catherine shared with me that I treasure too is that there is, okay, I'm starting to feel emotional, that there is no judgment. So when we talk about evil, and even in the thing I'm just sort of hinting around that I've been re-tapping into for the last couple of weeks, one man just said, even within the most evil of the worst, because there are those here on Earth that are creating our corrupt world and really trying to hurt us and kill us, even those inside, there's still that spark, because we're all divine, of goodness. And so they still have it within them, even though it's so hard to find. And so there is no judgment, like Catherine says. We're all going toward love, and some of them just need a huge wake-up call. And that's, just joining in here late, not having read the book or anything, I'm gathering that's what the book is trying to say, right? That we're all here to help everybody. I mean, we need to protect ourselves and be safe from the evil, but when we can, that's what we're here to do, is to help others and awaken what's inside them that's so covered up and such. So thank you for letting me share a little bit more toward the very, very end here.
Thank you for being here. And yep, you picked up on it perfectly. And guess what the verse talks about is don't cast away the wicked, cast away the wickedness. In other words, don't cast away the people, but cast away their wicked ways. And a lot of that has to do sometimes with restructuring what we are thinking about what they're doing too, because something that is completely, within the culture, within somebody's culture, and very respectable or whatever in their culture, to another culture, it could be considered evil, so we have to go back to our very essence and connect as people. And it's so difficult to do. When we haven't reconciled, what we're thinking about what they're doing. And I love how it says, go back to nature, but there's a piece of nature, and we're past the hour, so I'm not going to go into it, but maybe another day. But, nature can be pretty ruthless. Nature's pretty calm and serene and everything's lovey-dovey, and then nature can be like that, absolutely ruthless, but not in a intentional way. That's just the way it is. And sometimes we have to just accept that things are the way they are and learn how to reconcile that within ourselves so that we can maintain that peace. Because like you were talking about earlier, it's meditation is not about having no thoughts. It's about not letting your thoughts control you. And I think the way that we view people, I have to regress people. Like when people are getting on my nerve, my last nerve or whatever, I just have to like regress them back into that infant stage, and then I just like see myself holding them, rocking them as a baby and connecting with that essence of them. And then I can go back and deal more effectively with what's happening in the present moment. But wonderful discussion. It always is. I love you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Have an awesome one.
Thank you all. Glad I joined in.
I really appreciate you, Margie. It's a wonderful thing when people join us and then they immediately start sharing themselves and taking from us what they can that will benefit them at the time. I just love it. I love our group, and I love that we're growing. Thank you.
Oh, thanks everybody. I just had one final thought. When Catherine was mentioning nature, and there are those aspects of nature that seem ruthless, and yet when we look at those ruthless things like tsunamis and volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes and tornadoes and all of the destructiveness that it seems that they're bestowing upon us, is that I think in general we don't see nature and those aggressive things as evil. We just see them as they are. It just is. It's nature. And when we can look at people the same way and cast away our ideas of what we think is evil in another person or in another group or another culture, is that then we can, like Catherine was saying, is that we can reconnect to that inner self of those people and send them love and be love towards them, and know that by doing that we are helping to eradicate evil in the world. And that's what I think the remedy to evil is that we have to change our way of looking at it. And that, just like when Catherine was talking about the pedophiles and how, we see that as evil. We don't want it to happen, obviously, because it's unpleasant for the victim. But yet at the same time, when we look at what's really going on in that person's mind, and what we can send love to that hurt person, and know that they aren't coming at it because they want to be evil. They are doing something that is coming from something bad that happened to them, and all we can do is remember to send love. And so anyway, that's my final thought for the afternoon or the morning. What is it today? Today's Saturday. We're still in the morning. At least I am over here in Indianapolis. So okay, guys, have an awesome, amazing, wonderful weekend. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your insights and your knowledge and your wisdom. I just love you all so very much. And thank you, Marjorie, for joining us today. We really enjoyed what you had to say, and I think that your insights are absolutely wonderful. So thank you. Okay, guys, so we'll wrap it up for today. Have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.